our license after us, and I'm 100% sending her an angry text.
Oh, there we go. We're live again.
Oh, there we go.
Wonderful. Is Eva here, or is she?
I think she's popping back on now. I just texted her there.
Okay. Just before Eva gets back, the first question in the next segment is what do you think about modern spaces for queer and trans youth in Dublin and online, particularly since lockdown? Are they adequately safe and welcoming, or do you believe that they can be improved? Where are they? How can you get to them? That sort of thing. Space as like for the LGBTQ plus community. And any of the panelists can take this question.
Philippa, go for it. Come on, I'm dying to hear.
No, no, I was about to say, Victoria, I was about to say that I have no experience of modern, like 2005, 2006. So I was involved with Tenny. I was chair of Tenny and so on, and I was attending the support group that Tenny were running at that stage. Outhouse was amazing to me. But then I kind of a few years afterwards, I transitioned, and sorry, I became normal, boring. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. I really don't.
I hope that means you're really content. I hope that means you're in a great place and you're content. You took everything you needed from it. I'm curious. I actually badly do not know how Outhouse are coping through all this. I presume they've moved to online stuff. I know I can only speak from an events side of things. We've had people reach out to us who have said they feel really isolated, stuck at home, because queer spaces are so important when you're maybe in a home that isn't the most welcoming, that you can escape that and you can go out with your friends, or to be honest, even going to the cinema with those people that you met from those queer spaces is just a break for your mind. So when we moved to do shows online, we got a lot of messages from people just very thankful for that. Like they could have like a 2-hour space in that week that they could reconnect with their queer family. And Twitter became a huge part of that everyone could interact like they would in a smoking area, except it was online. And what we didn't take into account was a lot of people who maybe are my age or a little bit more, who no longer really go out anymore, were starting to feel a part of that community again because they could access it through their computer, rather than maybe they just didn't feel like going to the George was for them anymore. Or people from small towns down in the country who didn't get to come up for Pride, and that's a huge part of their calendar for the year, could still connect in with us. So when we took a break, people definitely said they felt that little bit of isolation creeping in. And I feel that everyone's definitely feeling some sort of isolation, but definitely people who are already maybe a minority maybe feel a little bit more.
I will say, if genuinely, like Victoria said about the shows, if it wasn't for those shows, I honestly think the first lockdown would not have been the best it wasn't the best for a lot of people, but it would have been so much worse. And the weeks that I wasn't on doing QLC, I approached and I said, could I do it? Because I was missing that whole vibe of me getting into drag and performing. I was missing that, that's an aspect of my life that I gotten so used to. That was kind of like a release of, all of the pent up stress that I would have had for say a week, 2 weeks before I'd got on a stage again. When the first one happened, I had so much fun, and I started, even on Twitter, was talking to people I never would have interacted with in person, because for one reason or another, I am terrified of people. I think people intimidate me. But because I think when things were moved online, people had a bit more comfort in talking to people that say they wanted to talk to for ages. And they couldn't do that in person because for one or another thing, if Victoria was on a night out and she was with her friends, I wouldn't feel as comfortable approaching her as I would say just replying to a tweet of hers or commenting on an Instagram picture, So that did bring a lot of people very close together. And I think even when we moved on out of this, when we did the first time, it helped a lot more people to be, closer when it comes to seeing somebody in real life. Because after the first lockdown, when I was in Stephen's Green, somebody would be like, oh, I saw you on QLC on Victoria Show, you were great. And I'd start up a conversation with them. And I'd feel like I'd come out of there with another friend or somebody else. I'd say if I went to the night out by myself, I'd know a face. I'd be like, oh, that's somebody I know. And that knowing a face or knowing somebody in a situation where you wouldn't know anybody makes a huge difference. And this is not even me kissing any ass, but honestly, your shows and everything they did do give a lot of help and a lot of hope to a lot of people. So
I agree. I think as well, like just to go off what Viola said as well, that as like kind of queer creatives, a lot of us were kind of forced, and now obviously, because now we've come out of it, we've gone into a second lockdown, but during the first lockdown, a lot of us were forced to pick up skills and talents that not all of us were kind of accustomed to. We suddenly became our own lighting directors and our own scenic designers, and you know, having to visualize, conceptualize all of these things by ourselves from our own bedrooms, some of us. And you know, it's I think it's just a testament to kind of the queer spirit that of creativity and of kind of that joy of creation and being able to, I know, for example, speaking from my own perspective, I would never have thought that I would be kind of making performances and sharing them online. That was never something that I kind of in my wildest dreams up until kind of the first lockdown I ever thought. And definitely, like Viola said, the Queens of Captivity shows and all of the kind of online events that were provided for so many kind of young queer people and young queer creatives especially were really invaluable. And I think as well, like, it's just so important that we kind of, and I would like and hope for the future that we can kind of continue with those types of events, because like Victoria said, they're really, really helpful for a lot of people even post-corona.
Absolutely, I so agree. What, just out of curiosity, what particular facet of the internet do you engage with most to, Adan, to express yourself and to, like, you know, be an activist and kind of promote those ideas?
Yeah, so I think for me anyway, the platform that I would use the most is Instagram. I think and the speed of knowledge, I think, I'm sure that the other panelists can attest to this, the speed at which knowledge kind of travels on any social media platform is alarming or reassuring, depending on how you look at it. You know, historical events like the Arab Spring in the Middle East and a lot of kind of social events like, for example, at the moment, the Black Lives Matter movement really, really gained momentum through that medium of social media. So for me, it's always really important that when I'm expressing myself, either if it's through performance art or kind of through fashion or through the work that I do online and activism, it's really, really important that the information and the content that I'm sharing is engaging, but also relevant and appropriate for the cause at hand. And I think it was something that that word appropriateness was something that I learned very, very quickly throughout the Black Lives Matter movement and the kind of the social projection that kind of occurred as a result of the senseless murder of George Floyd and the hundreds of other you know, murders of Black civilians in the US, that it was very, very important for me that the information that I was sharing was appropriate, and the knowledge that and the kind of the reading that I was giving not only was beneficial to people, but also didn't come from a place of superiority. And that was something that was really, really important to me, that through sharing through everything, that it's less about the kind of putting your own stamp on things and saying, okay, this is my material, this is what I'm sharing. It's amplifying, and my kind of mantra throughout any kind of social, drastic social change is that the most effective form of social change happens when you elevate the voices that need to be heard but aren't heard. And for me, that is consistently, and since 2015, when my kind of political engagement started, you know, it is always the most important thing. But it was something that I think me and a lot of my other kind of politically engaged friends had kind of needed to very, very quickly understand, that our jobs as kind of social engagers is that to elevate and amplify voices that matter the most. And I mean, I'm sure that Viola has so much to kind of say about this, because I really cannot, to anyone who is in the stream who's kind of unfamiliar with the work that she does, I cannot emphasize to you enough the importance of the work that Viola and so many other queer people of color in Ireland and all around the world did to raise awareness, because the information that was kind of, that is processed on social media, you know, for me anyway, Viola was just a shining example of how to really effectively kind of use social media, and this isn't kind of a sycophant moment, Viola, but really I just have to say thank you so much.
That is,
Yeah.
I absolutely. Viola, is there could you comment on that? Maybe just as like a Black drag queen, could you explain the importance of intersectionality in the LGBTQ plus community and why queer individuals should feel a responsibility to advocate for movements like the Black Lives Matter movement?
I think a major thing to think about is when you think back to the catalyst of the Pride celebration, it was queer people of color, queer women of color, majority of them. And if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have gained the traction it did. We wouldn't have gone in the direction we did. I mean, we eventually probably would have gotten to where we are, but it probably would not have happened as quick. And also, a lot of things we need to take into consideration are, like when you say intersectionality, a lot of people think that being queer and being Black, they exist independently. But like, to say you as white people, they exist independently. But for me, it's my everyday life. It is what I go through every day. And I was speaking on two sides as a Black drag queen. I've been extremely welcomed. I was welcomed with open arms. And for me also, another thing I think is because I was quite active on the scene. Like I'd go on nights out, I'd support the queens whenever a show was on. I'd go to like a few of dragged up events whenever I could. But I've been welcomed in a way that I never think that like, oh, I'm a Black queen and stuff. I've had people approach me and say, oh, you only get booked because they need a token Black queen. They need a Black queen. That's why you only get booked and stuff like that. And I've been told, just pay no attention to it, just knock it to the side. It is what it is. So it was those type of situations where, like, it even happened with QLC when I won the QLC. Somebody was like, oh, they only won because of what's happening with the Black Lives Matter. I was like, no, bull. I won. I didn't win the first time when it happened, when it was literally a week or so after the protest. If I was to win, I would have won that week. But I came back 2 or 3 times before I won. I don't want to get booked, or I don't want to get asked to do a show because I'm Black. I want to get booked and I get asked to do a show because my work speaks for itself. I want to get booked because they know I'm an entertainer. They know I can put on a show. They know I can perform. I can do what's asked for me. I don't want my skin to play a part in what I'm doing. And also, me being a Black drag queen, I don't neglect that at all. Like looking at Black drag queens who've gone through Drag Race, the Vixen, Bob, Monique, Monet, you see the way they get treated in the fandom. The fan base itself is very, very different than how white queens get treated. And this is no shade or anything. Like you could get a white queen who was not to the level of talent or drag that a Black queen was, but the white queen will get idolized a lot more because of the color of their skin. And it's led to stages where some Black queens have been close to quitting drag. Like Widow Von Du nearly quit drag this year because of the reception she got and stuff like that. So it is having to realize where pride and all these things come from. It is queer people of color who helped, who were the catalyst, who were at the front, who tried to help, who were fighting for queer people to get their rights, to get to where they are. And that should never be forgotten. And also, speaking as a Black queer man in the whole scene, I also think there's a whole other conversation that needs to be had with the way Black queer people are treated within the community, whereas they're often fetishized. Whereas I'll speak from my own experience is I get people say, I've never been with a Black guy. I've always wanted to be with one. Or, you know, they ask me all this direction. And I'm like, I'm not gonna be your experiment. If you wanna get with me because you find me attractive. Don't be saying, oh, because of your skin and stuff like that. But that's a whole other conversation that needs to be had. But I think intersectionality is a huge, huge thing that's important in the queer community because a lot of terminology and a lot of lingo that drag queens use, shade, tea, you know, all this, the vernacular came from Black women, Black communities. A lot of it came from there and it trickled down through drag queens and became into main, you know, main culture, like shade. Everybody says shade, you know? Everybody says it, but like, and people say drag queens popularized it, but like, it was a term that has been there for ages. It's just having respect. Respect will probably be the biggest thing is you need to have respect for each and everybody, you know, treat everybody equally and don't be saying, or don't be pushing either. Like I would never use my race to try and get booked in a show like any Witchy Wednesday or Davina show of Victoria's shows. I would never say, oh, like I say, for example, say like Victoria's bringing a Black queen. I'm like, oh, can I open for them because, you know, I'm a Black queen, I should open. No, that is not a way, because then that would do more damage than good down the line. So I think it's a way that there's a whole lot of conversation that needs to be had, and it needs to be had not just by Black queer people. White queer people as well need to stick up for Black queer people and say, look, where we are now, we owe it to Black queer people, and Black queer people also owe a lot to white queer people. So it's all about having respect for each other. That's where I think, for me personally, that's what it is. And that is what's most important with my intersectionality, and that's how I see it.
Wow, Viola, I think everyone needs to kind of process and understand all, like, there's so many incredible things that you just said, so insightful, and I think that's a really good summary of what intersectionality is in kind of a personal way, which is so much more impactful. If it's okay, I know we're going over time, and I'm so sorry for the disruption in the middle of everything. I'd like to ask just one more question to anyone or everyone or whatever. I think Philippa's social enterprise Under the Rainbow posted about the strangeness of experiencing pride from home and in lockdown, and how that's very difficult for queer people, and kind of the origin of where it public celebration of the LGBTQ plus community, but also a protest. And I'd like to just ask anyone, how is pride as a concept, how can that be utilized as a form of rebellion or protest in today's world, and why would that be important? And anyone can take this.
Philippa, do you want it?
Well, it was my company, my social enterprise that wrote the blog. It was written by my colleague Gillian. She was very much talking about, actually, Viola, it was intersectionality is what she was really talking about, and the importance of supporting all aspects of queer culture, and everybody supporting each other. I don't want to talk about too much about it, but we need allies. We need people who we need allies who will wave flags. We need to educate, as was mentioned earlier on by yourself, Victoria, equality and inclusion. And that's what we do in Under the Rainbow. That's what we do. But like, everybody on here, everybody watching is an ally by your very fact of being there. And I think that's what we have to bring to Pride, that all those people that I mentioned earlier standing on the street looking at Pride are our allies as well. And this is where we need to engage with them. And I think Pride going forward needs to continuously engage and to outreach all the time to anybody who wants to listen. We almost need to make them listen, because there should be an element of protest. There should be an element of rebellion, because after all, what are we doing? We're asking people to accept ourselves, except we shouldn't have to ask. And if they don't want to accept us, then we have to make them accept us, because we are who we are and we can't change who we are. God, I'm getting onto a rant there.
We love rants here. Thank you so much, guys. I think that was just one of the most wonderful things I've ever experienced. And I'm so sorry it had to be interrupted in the middle there. And I'm sorry if I'm freezing. But I think we'll have to wrap it up there. And I don't want to keep you too long.
Can I just hear about Philippa's book before we wrap it up? Because I genuinely want to know what's the crack with the book?
Okay, Victoria, you're getting a free copy.
A signed copy.
I have a book coming out from Mercier Press, Cork-based publishers, next year. COVID has really messed them up. It's called The Skirt. Hopefully it'll be called The Skirt. And it's about my transition. It's about my story growing up as a young questioning person back in the 1960s, 1970s, all the way up to, when did I finish writing it? Last year? Yeah, last year. So, so we'll see. Hopefully coming out next year. Thank you so much, Victoria. Definitely a drink and a copy of the book.
If anyone else has anything they'd like to plug, also, now would be the time. Any events, Victoria, please.
No,
something nice.
I just want to be at the book launch, Philippa. That's it. I'm here for the book launch. And if there's not wine there, I'll bring a bottle. Don't worry.
Victoria can fit 3 under her wig. So we're fine.
Yeah. So, no, just a quick thank you, Eva. We didn't get to talk to you. I'm sorry that you your internet went, especially when you came with such gorgeous lighting behind you. But thank you to all 3 of you for asking us all to be involved today, and hopefully everyone at home enjoyed it too. And hopefully 2021 means in-person events at some point.
I hope so. This was absolutely a collaboration. Myself, Kate, and Eva are also passionate about this event and how important we thought it was. And I, just to kind of close off, thank you so much again to our 4 panelists. I really think we got such just a glimpse and kind of a taste of all of your lives and what it means to be a person of the LGBTQ plus community and all the things that you're doing. We just have such a diverse range of people from different areas of that kind of community that I think it's just really so wonderful to hear all of your opinions and your thoughts. I honestly could stay here for another 2 hours, and I'm sure Kate and Eva feel the same way. We were getting dressed beforehand, putting our makeup on, and we were like, oh my god, this is gonna be so fun. And we both we all brought it. We were like, we have to go dramatic. We've got to put the lippy on, put the glitter on.
Without the red lipstick for this, guys. I swear. Me with my little lip pencil, trying to
It makes the word go around.
I put craft glitter all over my eyelids, and I'm so afraid it'll never come off. But I wear glitter too much, so I find
tape. Use tape, girl. Tape helps you.
I'm staying tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
I have an in-person seminar tomorrow, so I have to somehow scrub all this off my face and I'll be ready.
It looks so beautiful. It looks so beautiful. It's so
I feel very overdressed. I feel very overdressed.
Oh my god.
Stop. It's just
no such thing.
No such thing.
Thank you so much again. I would really urge everyone who's listening to go follow all 4 of our panelists here today. I've just so wonderful, the Instagram accounts, beautiful looks and activism in equal amounts, and that's all you want. So please go and look up Victoria's Secret, Viola Gavis, Dan. I'm so sorry, I keep pronouncing your name wrong.
Biscuit, like biscuit, but with 2 S's.
Glam, I don't know what's happening. So please go and follow them and really delve into their activism and everything that they stand for and the things that they do, because it's really, really important. And go to a drag show the minute you can, because
buy Philippa's book.
Yeah. Philippa, where can we follow you? Where can we follow Philippa?
I'm on Twitter and I'm on Facebook.
Okay, great.
I don't understand Instagram. I keep asking my daughter to tell me how to.